it's Laura. Welcome back to my channel where I want to help you know God and make Him known. And in this video series, I'm going to be talking about science and what science shows us about God and the principles that He set in place for our lives, but also what it shows us about Him. So in the last video, I talked about Newton's first law of motion, and in this one, I want to talk about his second law of motion. Okay, so the second law is force equals mass times acceleration, or F equals ma. So basically this means the more mass, or the bigger the object, the more force it's going to take to actually accelerate it. Basically, the harder you kick a ball, the further it will go, or the harder you push someone on a skateboard, for instance, then the further they'll go. And this shows us some really cool things about the strength that we develop. I remember hearing a story one time about this man. It wasn't a real story. It's like an illustration. But God told this man, go push on that rock. I want you to go push that rock. Push that rock. So every day this man went out and he pushed the rock and pushed the rock. And he tried to move the rock. And finally, after years, he was so discouraged. And he's like, that rock is not moving. God, I thought you wanted me to push the rock. And then God comes back and tells him, I did tell you to push the rock. I didn't mean to move the rock, but look at you. Now you are, and it goes on describing, look how strong you are. You are completely able to do all the things I've called you to. And it's a silly little story because God didn't really say that. But it's just neat that the more God pushes us, the stronger we get. All right. Sometimes the harder things are in life, they can actually push us to trust God more versus the things that aren't that hard for us to walk through. We're not going to grow. Our faith muscle doesn't really get that big, if we don't have bigger things to trust God with. So that's a neat little illustration and thing that we can learn about the second law of motion. And how to trust God with it is realize that He's going to bring big things, and He's not going to let us stay the same. He loves us way too much to let us stay the same and not grow. And He promises in Philippians 1:3 that He who began a good work in you and in me, He will be faithful to complete it until the day of Christ. And that means bringing stuff into our life that's going to be uncomfortable in order to make us more like Him. All right, thanks for joining me in this video. All right, bye-bye.